Hey y'all, today I want to share with you 3 key elements to destroying anger and transforming an anger-wired brain. So 3 key elements to destroying anger and transforming an anger-wired brain. You guys, this is Dawn Churchill. If you've never followed me before, I am a trauma-informed master life coach, and I help professional Christian women discern and dismantle trauma blocks so that they can live the life of power, prosperity, and purpose that they've always dreamed of. Okay, so yesterday I shared about how we are just about to roll out a very long-awaited program where I'm teaching you how to transform an anger-wired brain. And I need your help by answering a couple of questions, which I'm going to get to a little bit later on. And if you stay all the way to the end of the video, I'm going to give you the opportunity to receive a free gift from me. And it is a tutorial on how to diffuse triggered anger. How to diffuse triggered anger. Okay, but I'm going to get into my message real quickly. So I want to share 3 key elements to destroying anger, bitter offense, irritation, frustration, annoyance, whatever you want to call it. I want to share 3 key elements to evicting and destroying this thing out of your life, okay? The first thing that I want you to notice is I didn't say manage or cope. I said destroy, evict, obliterate. This thing has to be destroyed, okay? The first thing for you to destroy this thing is, all right, here, you ready? Are you listening? So frustration, irritation, impatience, annoyance. Y'all, all of these are politically correct ways of defining anger. Frustration, irritation, impatience, and annoyance are merely politically correct ways of defining anger. All right. Our politically correct professional pride, we don't want to admit that we're angry and offended. Like, you know, if you're a corporate leader, or even if you're in ministry, if you are a ministry leader, if you are a community leader, it's just not apropos to say, I'm angry. But if you're going to have victory over this thing, the first thing you have to do is take ownership of the fact that frustration and irritation, impatience and annoyance is just a pretty way of saying you're angry. Y'all, I had to come to, if you can't take ownership of that, if you won't admit that that's the truth. See, frustration and impatience is just varying degrees of anger and offense. That's all it is. And so you need to take ownership of it. That's point number 1. All right, point number 2 and number 3 are pretty potent. Are you ready? Here we go. Anger is far much more than a negative emotion. Anger is much more than a negative emotion. It is a very powerful mental, emotional, spiritual, and even physiological stronghold that cannot be managed. It is a very powerful mental, emotional, spiritual, and even physiological stronghold that must be evicted, destroyed, obliterated, demolished. Y'all, there is no such thing as anger management. So you can take anger management courses, and yes, you can learn some coping skills, and yes, you can diffuse anger better. I'm not going to say that you can't. I have a tutorial on, I have 2 tutorials on diffusing anger. And the first one is from a spiritual standpoint, and the second one is from a non-spiritual standpoint. But anyway, you can diffuse it a bit. I'm not saying that you can't. You can even get it to stand down, sit down, shut up, and go sit over in the corner, right? But until you evict it, y'all, it will always be there, just waiting to rear its ugly head anytime anybody or anything trips its trigger. And I know you know that is true. Because yes, you can get yourself to come down out of it, but you keep getting tripped back into it. It's because it's a stronghold. It has roots in you. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about the 4 areas where it has roots in you. All right, number 3, this is a really good one. Depending on how many unresolved, unhealed trauma wounds that you have. Now, a trauma wound, I'm not going to go into great depth, but it's really anything in life that an angry wound, a painful heart wound. It can be a severe disappointment. There's all kinds of things, okay? But any amount of unresolved, unhealed trauma wounds, angry wounds, painful heart wounds that are rooted in bitter anguish, deep significant pain, anger, rage, basically any significant negative emotion, depending on how many of those that you have, it's going to determine how often and with what veracity that anger, frustration, irritation, impatience, annoyance, or sometimes downright rage rears its ugly head. So whether you are struggling with this from time to time or several times a day, frustration, irritation, impatience, anger, it has to be evicted. You can't manage it. If it's still living in your house, you need to get rid of it like a bad roommate. How many of y'all had a bad roommate said, y'all, look, baby girl, you got to go. Like, for real, you got to go. Right? So if you're going to walk in peace, and let me tell you, God loves you so much. God loves you so much. He wants you to overflow with his love and joy and peace. So if you're going to walk in that type of abundance, if you're going to walk in the overflowing goodness of God and the overflowing peace and joy of God, then anger cannot be sitting over the corner in time out. It has to be evicted, or you will never walk in that type of abundance. Okay. All right, I'm almost done, so hang in there with me. I am not going to share my childhood trauma story today, other than to say that between the ages of 9 and 13, I endured 9 very long years of horrific abuse. Forced childhood slave labor, yes, it happens in America. Sexual molestation, sex trafficking, which was perpetrated by witchcraft brainwashing and conditioning and physical torture methods and occult ceremonial abuses. Yeah, it was a whole thing. This happened all at the hands of my mother and my stepfather. So if anybody in the world, if anybody on the planet knows what it's like to have unresolved anger, bitterness, rage in the form of consistent impatience, frustration, annoyance, irritation, if there's anybody that knows what it's like to live in that space and be tormented by that stuff day after day after day after year after decade, y'all, I am your girl. I'm the poster child, right? So if anybody had told me as little as 15 years ago that I could be forever healed and transformed from all of that constant triggering, I would have told you that you were nuts, like you were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? And even recently, one of my followers reached out to me with that very question. And she said, can this thing really be healed forever? And my answer is absolutely yes. All right. So 2 things. Number 1, I want you to stay tuned tomorrow for part 2. I'm going to give you 3 really key elements. And if you have stayed all the way to the end of this video, then I have a free gift for you. Yay. Brrr. If you will visit the link in the description of this video, it's just tinyurl.com short survey for Dawn. Yeah, I was real creative in that title. tinyurl.com / short survey for Dawn. You will find that in the description of this video. If you will enter your details, answer a super short 3-minute survey, then you'll be taken directly to my free gift, which is a tutorial on how to diffuse triggered anger. And yes, diffusing triggered anger is like the very first elementary step of evicting it out of your life. And so I wanted to be able to give that to you for free, okay? But really, the 2 questions that I have to ask you, and they are on the short survey, is what are your top 2 questions about eliminating frustration and transforming an anger-wired brain that I absolutely need to make sure that I have already included in this training course. This is very important to me, okay? All right, so last but not least, stay tuned for tomorrow. I'm going to do part 2. I'm going to share 3 more key elements to destroying the stronghold of anger in your life, and I'm going to share the one thing that you absolutely need for guaranteed success, so you want to stay tuned. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.